It feels weird to say this in January,
Okay.
but hockey's back, baby.
Is it not normally in January?
No, it usually starts in October. But because of the times that we are in, the
Mm-hmm.
playoffs went into, now I'm trying to remember now. I think it was until September, maybe early October. And so they had a couple months break. And then they kind of started training camps on like January 1st, and then they started. It's been nice. I mean, my Canucks have not been doing well out the gate, but what I'm really excited about this year, and for those who aren't hockey fans, I'm very sorry for you, and I will
Thank you.
pray for your soul and for
Thank
your
you.
redemption.
Thank you.
You wait. You watch hockey during the playoffs when the Penguins aren't in them.
Yes, I have been known to do this.
Yes, so you have a moderate fandom.
Very moderate.
Okay, compared to football, compared to your engagement with your football pool, where would hockey? How would you relate hockey to
I'm
that?
definitely more engaged with
What's the
football
ratio? Okay,
purely because of my priest group that does a fantasy football league.
yeah.
So at least I look at numbers of certain players every week. I
You
watched.
don't.
I think the only Steelers game I watched this year was the last Steelers Browns game, and that was a rough one. So
Yeah. Where it was like, yeah, the Browns didn't even have like their whole team, right, or something like that. I don't know. I don't really watch football, so
it was a big mess.
yeah,
And at least there was like we were having our end of the year kind of get together. So at
right,
least there was food and conversations and stuff.
right,
But there is nothing quite like watching a Steelers game with a bunch of Yinzers. There's nothing quite like it. It's not just watching a football game with fans of a football team. It's like this next level thing where even those who like aren't super Pittsburghese, they kind of lean into it. It's like my mom, she grew up in like upper New York state, and whenever she goes back home, she gets a little bit more of that accent to her. It's the same sort of
right,
deal when any kind of Pittsburgher is watching Steelers football. You get a little more Yinzer in your voice. So
right.
that was entertaining.
Okay, so here's okay. Actually, just as a little side, I think what I want to do, God willing, I can actually like come to the United States in November.
Hmm.
I want to come to the state. I want to come to Pittsburgh in November, so that I can compare watching a football game with Yinzers and watching a Penguins game with Yinzers.
Okay. As long as
And
we
I
don't
can
go to a football game live, I
no,
would
but we
never
can
do
go to
that
a
to you.
hockey game live.
That would be okay.
That would be fun.
Penguins games are fun live. Steelers games.
And I've never actually seen Sidney Crosby. Oh no! Sorry, that's not true. That is actually not true. I did see him. I actually got lucky. I have some friends who work for Upper Deck, and I got free tickets to the All-Star game a few years ago.
Ooh.
So I went to the All-Star game in San Jose a few years ago. So I actually have seen Sidney Crosby live, but not in like a real game. We all know All-Star games aren't real games,
True.
right? So, anyways, but what I'm really excited about with this hockey season is that for the first time ever, and probably for the only time, because of the borders being closed and different rules and regulations about coming in and out of different countries with the pandemic, we have a Canadian division, which means all 7 Canadian teams, all they're doing for the entire season is playing each other.
Okay.
It's going to be so much. It's going to be the rivalries that are going to build in this are going to be amazing. Everyone's going to know each other's teams so well. They're going to get it under each other's skin so much. It's going to be like we're just a few weeks into it. Everyone's still feeling, partially because training camp is usually like a few weeks long and you have exhibition games to kind of get a sense of how the team's going to work. We had like a week and then you start playing games. So teams it's the same thing we've been with the NBA. They had like a week and then they started playing games. So everyone's still kind of feeling things out a bit.
Wait, and how do you
Yeah.
do playoffs if you're not going to play teams from the U.S.?
So what they're doing right now, and I think they're also under the impression that probably by the time the playoffs come around, it'll be easier to travel, which is probably a reasonable assumption. And if it's not, they might work out a bubble system. But for the first 2 rounds of the playoffs, it's actually intra-divisional anyways. So every division's only playing within its division this year.
Gotcha.
So like the Crosby and Ovechkin are playing each other like 8 or 9 times this year, which is actually makes for really fun hockey, right?
Yeah.
So I believe if I remember right, it's the first 2 rounds are interdivisional, and then all the divisions either they come together for a playoff. So either they'll travel or they'll create a bubble again for that if it's still an issue. But I'm optimistic it won't be an issue by the time those playoffs come around.
All right.
So yeah, so I don't know. It brings a little joy into life. The
Father
hockey
Harrison, your joy brings me
joy
joy.
brings you joy. Yes, I know. Yes, and with that, I want to welcome everyone to Clerically Speaking. I'm Father Harrison.
I'm Father Anthony. I'm glad you have joy, Father Harrison, because I have a lot of
Okay.
sadness.
Uh-oh.
This is a
Why?
sad time of year
Okay.
for the fellas,
Okay.
for guys,
Okay.
for dudes,
Yeah.
for bros.
All right.
And we've talked before, that men and women are different, right? We have different
Correct.
struggles, different crosses, different graces. There's complementarity in that, equal dignity
Right.
in that, both made in the image and likeness of God. But there is a certain kind of pain that women will simply never understand.
Okay.
And it happens around this time of year for guys.
Okay.
We have too many pockets.
Okay.
Way too many pockets. I've got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Like 10 pockets when I leave the door for my rectory. I've got
Uh-huh.
pants pockets, I got sweater pockets, I got coat pockets.
Okay.
And no woman will ever know the pain, the difficulty in trying to find your keys when you have 10 pockets on you.
Okay.
It's very
Right, because
distressing.
they'll just have their purse.
Yeah, that's one big pocket. That's easy. It's all there.
Why not have a merce?
That would just add to the problem.
Okay.
Listen. Society forces me to have this many pockets.
Okay.
I can't just go outside and not have pockets.
Yeah, but your whole MO is to like go against society.
Hey, I'm a victim of the patriarchy just like everyone else is. Okay? I don't choose to wear pockets. Society forces me to wear these pockets. So
Why
where's
not?
my phone? Maybe I think I have it because I have what? I have 10 pockets. My phone's got to
Okay.
be in one of those pockets. But what if it's not? So I pat down all my pockets. I think I have it. Maybe I do. Maybe I don't. There's anxiety. There's doubt. There's confusion. There's a lack of control in my life. Where's my phone? Where's my wallet? Where's my keys?
Mm-hmm.
What if I've got my little vial of anointing of the sick oil? Which pocket
Yeah.
is that in? Can't find it.
That's why you
Have to check
keep it
like
in the
3
car.
times, and then it turns out it's in my car. It's in my car pockets,
Yeah. Oh wait.
also known as a glove compartment pocket.
So that's a pocket now.
Yeah, absolutely.
But is it a
So many
pocket by
pockets.
definition on your person?
I've never parsed out the definition of pockets. I think it's a car pocket. It's the pocket of a car. And it's just, it's been really a rough few weeks now that the cold weather has set in, and I just have trouble locating all of my items. And I just
Right.
would like, and I brought this up to some of my female friends,
Mm-hmm.
and it was disappointing because I was expecting empathy from them.
Mm-hmm.
I was expecting some kind of understanding.
And care.
Instead, they mocked me. They
Mhm.
derided me.
Yes. And ask
They
you why you don't have a purse.
no, they didn't do that. They just dismissed my pain outright, Father
Mm,
Harrison.
mm, mm.
It hurt my feelings.
So I'm sorry you went through that.
Thank you.
But I just want you. I did look up what is the definition of pocket.
Okay.
Okay. A small bag sewn into or on clothing so as to form part of it, for carrying small articles. So a car pocket is not real.
I'm a little offended that you're trying to correct a minute definition, and that's just a defense mechanism you're using to ignore my pain, because I feel like you feel this pain as well, and I don't want you to block it out. I don't want you to sublimate it somewhere else, Father Harrison. This
No,
is a tough
because
season for the fellas, for the dudes, for the
it's
bros.
not. Because as someone with ADHD, I've just learned to put things in my vision so that I remember it. So that's what I just do. I just
Do you
don't
have
leave
glasses
things.
pockets? How does that work? That makes no
I don't.
sense.
I don't wear glasses.
So where do you keep which one of your 10 pockets do you keep your keys in?
I put them on the counter so that I see them when I'm leaving.
But what happens when you leave?
I put them in my right side pocket.
But what if you make a mistake? Sorry, not everyone can be as perfect as you.
I'm not
Sometimes I put it in my
perfect,
left
trust
side
me.
pocket.
I'm not
What
perfect.
if you put it in, like, I grab my wallet and I don't feel like
Yeah.
sitting on my wallet in the car, so I throw it in a
Okay.
pocket. I can't remember what pocket it is.
Here's where
I'm
I
at
can
the drive-through.
empathize.
No, you're gonna listen. You're gonna listen. I throw my wallet in one of my pockets because I'm out the door. I need to get McDonald's,
Mm-hmm.
and then I drive up to pay because I
Mhm.
pay. I don't steal my food. I don't know what they do in Canada, but I don't steal my fast food.
Right.
And I have to search through 10 pockets while sitting down, which makes the whole process even more difficult. And it's awkward for me. It's awkward for the cashier.
Yeah.
And it's just been a very tough time.
So okay, but I'm confused. Like you don't just keep your wallet in the same pocket, like no matter what pair of pants you're
Why are you
wearing.
trying to fix this problem?
I'm not trying to fix it.
It's
I'm
not
just trying
about
to. I'm
fixing the
trying.
problem,
I'm not trying to
Harrison.
fix it. I'm trying to understand it.
I feel like I'm not being heard.
Well, um, I got nothing, man. I got nothing. I don't know how to answer
Just
this.
I'm just saying,
I just,
ladies who listen to the podcast,
well,
just pray for the fellas,
so
okay?
also though, I'm in a pretty nice climate. I don't have to deal with winter, so this really
Wait,
isn't an issue for me.
but
Maybe
it
it's why I'm
snows
having a
there
hard
all the
time
time. You should
empathizing.
know this better than anyone else.
We haven't had snow all year here, and we never have snow here. We have snow here like once a year,
You know what?
May if we're
I
lucky. If
don't
we're
want to talk about this anymore.
okay, fine.
You're not
You
willing.
know
I'm
what we
just
are going
getting
to
more
talk
and more
about?
hurt.
Okay,
You're
fine,
just
fine.
hurting me more.
We are going to go into digital pockets known as tweets in the Summa Tweetologica. The Summa Theologica of St. Thomas Aquinas' summary of theology, and the Summa Tweetologica is our summary of things we found interesting on Twitter. And this one is from Jake at Jake of Online, uh, co-host of the former great and wonderful Spicy Nugs podcast.
Indeed.
Correct? Yes.
R.I.P. in peace.
R.I.P. in peace, indeed. My hottest take is that people who drink coffee are weak-willed. First, just before I even comment, it's so much fun to watch his comments because, and he actually even replies with this because it's like, if you know Jake, as a mutual follower of his, I would just say, true, you are right. But everyone's like, all those sorts of reactions. But no, I do what Jake is right here. It is for the weak-willed, just like grace is for the weak-willed.
Mm-hmm.
So why is that a bad thing? I don't think so. I actually think that means coffee is an absolute necessity of life. Because of our weakness, we need the superabundant gift of caffeine to wake us up and motivate us for our days. And so, yes, we are weak-willed. We do struggle to do things during the day. We do struggle to get motivated, and we drink it because we need the sweet, sweet nectar of coffee to get us through the day. So Jake is absolutely right. It's not a bad thing, because just as grace is not a bad thing because we are weak in our nature, so coffee is not a bad thing because we are weak in our nature.
Yes, in our weakness, coffee makes us strong, and this
Amen.
is we have both talked many times about enthusiasm for the bean juice on this podcast, and it's a difficult thing because it's not just the caffeine. Sometimes coffee is straight up medicine for me. All right,
Right.
This is this is just a fact, but oftentimes it's something like the whole experience I enjoy. And it's tricky, like how much of that enjoyable experience is because of a caffeine addiction and bad wiring in my brain. But also, like I enjoy, like my brother, he roasts coffee beans. I get fresh coffee
And
beans. I got my espresso machine.
he does a good job.
He actually does. It's like super legit.
Yeah.
So just it becomes a ritual in the morning. Becomes almost a kind of liturgy, to be honest. I think
Right.
drinking
So
coffee makes you more spiritual.
Right. So is Jake saying liturgy is a bad thing? 'Cause that's what I'm hearing.
It sounds like it. I mean, by the transitive property, I believe Jake is. I'm not going to call it heresy because we had the whole discussion last episode, but it's troubling. It is
It's
troubling.
troubling. It's concerning. It may be worth calling his bishop about it, and perhaps and getting his bishop to invite him in for a discussion.
Yeah,
We have to remember
over coffee, maybe.
Yeah, a lot of people give up coffee over Lent. Perhaps Jake will have to take up coffee for Lent.
Absolutely.
I think that would be a good idea.
Yeah.
Cool. That's all I have to say.
Yeah. No, it was great.
Cool.
This is a tweet from Father Alex Schrank at Father at FRA at Father Schrank. Nick, fix this. Fix this, Nick.
Whatever his thing is, because he's always got whatever.
This is a tweet from Father Schrank. Some prefacing to this tweet. Right now, in your churches, probably in your parishes, if they're doing things, yes, your parishes are already thinking about Lent and Holy Week. So we have our Ash Wednesday schedule. We'll be doing our Holy Week schedule next week, figuring that out. And some of the priests are trying to figure out how shall we distribute ashes in this time of pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
There's been talk about sprinkling ashes on top of
Mm-hmm.
the head, like they do in Rome, which I'm very for. But some of the priests are using their liturgical imaginations to try to figure out
That sounds
um,
dangerous.
both pastoral and creative ways to distribute ashes. And so he shared a little screenshot of some of the discussion, and I'll just read some of them. One of the ideas is just get somebody who is vaccinated, put a lot of ashes on their forehead, and then they will just kind of headbutt everybody who comes up in line. Right? No transmission.
Uh-huh.
You get the ashes on your forehead. Um, there's also just, instead of using water and ash to like mix the stuff, just
Yeah.
use Purell. Just pour a bunch of Purell, pour a bunch of ash in there, so you get sanitized and you get ashes on there. That's a great idea, and maybe the best one for liturgy. And it depends on the architecture of your church, as we know that architecture is very important in liturgy. But hopefully, your church has ceiling fans. In which case, you simply put a lot of ashes on the ceiling fans. You turn them on, and the ashes go everywhere. And just you play Pope Francis's statement that he wants everyone to go make a mess in the church, which I think is beautiful. It's in line with the papacy. It's kind of a call to evangelization to not be afraid to go out there. The ashes get on everybody. There's no contact involved. And I think that's beautiful. So just I appreciate the creativity of my brother priests. They're only coming up with these ideas because they care.
Right. Um, First, I love how kind of spicy we get when we do later night recordings. This is
Yes.
great. So yeah, I like the ceiling fan idea. This is a good one. I yeah. Oh, I was almost thinking like, is there a way if you had like an asperger that had? Oh no, you know those big like some like in Eastern Europe they use like these massive branches for
Yeah.
with holy water. Just like dump a bunch of ash on her and just go around the church just throwing it at people,
There you
you
go.
know?
Mhm.
Or there's got to be, uh, you have a massive bowl of ashes
Okay.
and you hold a snowblower. And as people are walking
Ah.
up, they walk in front of it and the ashes just blow right on you.
Yep. Very
I mean,
beneficial.
it'd also be a lot of fun to use a snowblower,
Yeah, absolutely.
right? And I mean, and that's why you have paid janitorial staff.
Yep. Because they are not busy enough purifying all of our buildings every day. They could use a little bit more work, and I think that'd be good. You know.
So okay. So for those who don't know, or let's use this as a little educational moment now. So for those
Okay.
who don't know, Rome kind of put a little decree about Ash Wednesdays, about around the pandemic and everything, and perhaps imposing ashes on the forehead is not the best idea right now. And actually, if you do some research, from the bits I've learned, is that the whole idea of imposing ashes on the forehead is a bit of a North American invention. In other words, it's Americanism again, rearing its ugly head. The traditional way is to sprinkle it on the crown of your head for a few reasons, right? One is that's the whole point. Like if you read scripture, ashes are poured on you, right? So this is meant to be a symbol of that. It's a symbol. It's not like you have to pour ashes on you, but it's a symbol. Secondly, yeah, actually, it's a bit more messy. You can't just go home and take a face cloth and wipe it off. You actually have to like take a shower to get it all out, or at least wash your hair or something like that, right? The third reason is what do we do to infants or anyone who's to be baptized with chrism oil? Usually, right? Like, or actually infants, sorry. What do we do with infants when they're about to be baptized or after they've been baptized?
Yeah, we put chrism on their forehead.
No, not on their forehead, on the crown of their head.
Well, whatever.
You put it on the forehead?
They kind of, yeah. I don't put it on top of their heads.
No, I've always been told crown.
Okay. Do my baptism still count?
And this is where we need someone like Father Alec around right now because he'd be able to give us the definitive answer on this. I've always just been under the impression it was on the crown of the head.
I don't think this is a big deal.
Well, no, well, I had this whole thing, like the whole idea you get crowned, you get anointed with the chrism on the crown of your head, and that's where you're anointed as priest, prophet, and king. But
Sure.
in
But
that
in my
role,
mind, the crown doesn't rest on the top of your head. It's this
no,
loop, and it rests like kind of
no,
on around the
right,
forehead, around the back. That's where the crown rests. That's obviously what the crown of the crown of the head means.
no,
I mean, my
no,
explanation makes way more sense.
no. If it's
If
just
it's
like
on top
basic.
of your head, that'd be the hat of your forehead. But we all know what crowns look like. There's these like loops.
No, the
Yeah,
back. No, no, it's basic biology. On the back, it's the crown.
the crown's on top.
No,
No, that doesn't make sense.
the,
Crowns
this
rest
is the
kind of
crown.
on your
No,
forehead.
no, you're thinking. No, no, that's not
You're
what we mean
thinking
by
of
crown.
hats.
No, no, no. I'm thinking of the technical biological term is the crowns on the back of the head.
Okay, you can go to your science for liturgy. I'm going to good old fashioned Christian symbolism. So whatever, agree to disagree. But what was your actual point?
Well, the whole idea was that since you're anointed there with chrism, having the ashes sprinkled there is a way of saying I have not fulfilled my mission as priest, prophet, and king, and so it also becomes symbolic that way. That's a little obviously personal thing because apparently it's not universally known what the crown of the head means. So,
Yeah, some people obviously have it wrong.
yeah, exactly. Some people do apparently. Huh?
See, the thing is, like, I really want to do the sprinkling of ashes on the head because the symbol has been totally corrupted
Yeah.
in churches in places now where getting your ashes is a symbol of pride.
Yeah.
People, I think a motivation for many people, not all people, is to show that they are a good Catholic or
Right.
that they are part of the Catholic club. You have to get your ashes right away. Our churches are filled with people who want ashes. And
Mhm.
while on some level, I'm glad that there is a desire to be recognized as a part of this church, I think there's something good in that.
Mhm.
What would happen if people don't get that those ashes on their forehead? Would they be angry about it? I think they would be.
Oh,
But I
you'd
think
be
that might be good.
surprised. Ash Wednesday is one of the. In some ways, I always find it more. At least culturally, it's more popular than Easter in some ways.
In some ways,
In some ways, right? Like it's really unique.
there's less
Catholics are weird,
anxiety.
and it's not even a holy day of obligation.
It's so funny because there's less anxiety about going to Easter mass than there is about getting your ashes. Like, no, we don't.
I
People
lament
will
Ash Wednesday more than I lament Easter Sunday.
people will call saying, okay,
Uh,
what time do they give out ashes? Well, like
right.
mass starts at this time. No, but what time
Yeah.
do
No,
they give
what
out
time
the
of it? Yeah.
ashes?
Yeah.
Right.
What point of the mass can I pop in for the distribution of
Just pop
ashes?
in
Like
and get
no,
some
no, no.
ashes.
Uh-uh.
There's something that's
No,
gone
the doors are
horribly
gonna be
wrong
locked
there.
when mass starts,
Yeah.
and if you're not in, you're not getting ashes. Too bad.
So I think that would be a good teaching moment for the church.
Yes. Well, we again. So, and then there are those places where you're closed. Like I have I have a feeling we probably still will be by that point. Which in some, you know, I know it's hard, and I'm getting tired of preaching at a camera, to be honest.
Yo, it's the worst. I remember.
And and the people really want to come back, but we want to do what we can for the common good and stuff and like that. But if we are open for then like if we're restricted to 50 people still, how do I get everyone in for Ash Wednesday? I can't.
It's
I
gonna be
can't.
tough.
I can't. I literally can't fit everyone in.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. We'll see. We'll find out. We'll find out in 2 weeks if we're open or not. So, and then if that'll add a whole other stress to things, but we'll see.
Drive by ashes. That's what you got to do.
But I am a fan of the sprinkling. I've always wanted to do the sprinkling, so now
Yes.
Rome has made it easier to do, and I'm very grateful to the Holy Father for this.
Yes, and it makes your homily super easy because you know what you're going to preach on. Why, the symbolism of sprinkling on the head, the need to realize, like, if you're upset that people aren't going to see your ashes, that's a good question. Why would you be upset by that?
Exactly.
There's a lot of good preaching material there. So
Yep.
I hope that's what we do because I think that would be great.
Amen. Well, let's go into our good old presbyteral exhortations. All right, so I'm gonna try my best here to see how I can get these words out. It's not gonna be catechetical at all, or maybe a little bit at the end. I mean, it's always a little catechetical, I guess. But I've been in a pretty bad funk the last month.
You've made reference to this on the show.
I have. It's taken me a while to realize it. I was like, it was hard to be motivated. It was hard to do anything. It was hard to clean. It was hard to pray. It was hard. I felt overwhelmed, just wanting even to look at my emails or anything. And it wasn't because of busyness. Life is a bit slower right now because of closures and stuff like that. So it had nothing to do with busyness. It was the funk. And I was like, what's this all about? And I'll be honest, I think the reason it caught me off guard for a while, and while it took me a while, well, there's a few reasons. I'm starting to realize more and more, again, as an extrovert, I really do get energy from being around people. So not having that a lot right now has made life difficult to have those normal social encounters that would give me life. So that's one thing. The second thing is, though, the reason it caught me off guard is because, and now I don't want to make everything we always talk about the pandemic or anything like that, but I do want to mention a little bit about it because when we first, I want to say this because I think when we mentioned this a few months ago on the show, or sorry, Father Anthony mentioned this a few months ago on the show, and his words have not left me, which is a good thing. This is a good thing about how perhaps when at the beginning we weren't listening enough, and I look back and I realized like I hadn't really gone through the spiritual difficulties of this time. Things were pretty good for me for a long time, but they weren't in December. Now I'm not talking about like crisis of faith or anything like that, because that would take a lot for me. It's to be honest. Again, hope is my natural theological virtue, if you will. Like it's the one I tend towards the most. So I wasn't worried about that. I didn't really worry this time, but it was tough to get going in the mornings. I think part of it was I was like, for example, like I just said, I'm tired of preaching to cameras. I really am. Listen, streaming is a good thing. I'm going to continue to do it because a lot of people find benefit of it, and I will not stop doing it. And I'm grateful, and I am grateful to the parishioners who have donated to make this happen and stuff. So I'm not going to stop it. I'm just tired of it, if that makes sense. I'm tired of preaching to cameras. I think it's a good thing. Like it's showing us these are good things, but they have limitations. Okay. So I'm tired of that. I don't really have, and I'm trying to be pretty careful around all of this. So I don't really have the opportunity to, like, we're really, like, the government's really just saying, do not interact with people right now, unless you have to for work or whatever. And now, granted, as a priest, I have work and stuff like that, but I'm actually wanting to do my part. Cases are going up on the island, so I'm kind of, I want to make sure, not just for my sake, but for the sake of my parishioners. I don't want to go into someone's home who's sick or is dying of something, bring the communion, and then their spouse gets COVID because I was a vector or something like that. So I want to be careful. But that means limiting pastoral activity, and that's hard. You start to realize, well, like, you're ordained to be a priest, which means you're not just, like that's something that's like, we always like to use the phrase like ontological change, right? Like it's something you are really and truly. It's not something you do, it's something you are. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, the activity is important to that. And pastoral activity has been not a whole lot lately.
Yeah.
And it's been hard to figure out what to do or how to do things. I've got some ideas, and I'm probably going to do some more online content for people, which I don't mind doing. But like for me, the joys of pastoral activity is like going to someone's house and having a cup of coffee or going out for a meal or whatever. And it's been really hard to do those things. Because I think it's really important. The priest is in a parish is the first example of how we ought to be dealing in this time, right? So there was all that. And then just the slowness of Christmas time. Like we were closed for Christmas, which was okay. And I wasn't like, and it's funny, like I call it, and I do call it a funk on purpose because I know there's a lot of people who struggle with depression. And I've had a few bouts of that in my life, and not a ton though. And I'm hesitant to use the phrase, not because I doubt it, but rather I know how serious it is. I don't want to make light of it, if that makes sense. Right. So yeah, we're close for Christmas, obviously. So, you're just saying your Christmas masses to a camera. We did our best to decorate the church. But you feel a little lifeless as right now, to be honest. Mm-hmm. And when you feel lifeless, it's easy to just sit in front of the computer and browse for a while or watch too much. Like, I'll be honest, I watched way too much basketball in the last week of December, for example, right? I watched way too much of it. And I know that. And it wasn't good for me, but it was just hard to do stuff. So I say all this. So and it's not been fun. It seems to be finally like slowly coming to an end, which is nice. And we all always pray that these are just seasons; they're not a lifelong thing. It seems to be slowly coming. I'm able, like I spent a couple hours yesterday doing some pretty hardcore cleaning around the rectory, which is good, and slowly motivating myself to doing some more. But it was a crappy month. It was probably the worst month of the year.
Hmm.
And that's not fun at all. But I say all this because at the same time, I started to experience some of perhaps the spiritual and anxious, if you will, experiences that a lot of people have gone through this last year. And I started to understand some of the reactions people have had to different things. Now, I didn't have those reactions, but it's like, yeah, the anxieties of how is my parish going to make the bills this month, even. This is a very real concern this month we're in right now. This I gotta figure that out. That's a real anxiety because that's my responsibility to try and figure out how to make that all work. But just also like I'm so tired of being isolated, and it's not loneliness. I'm very grateful. I haven't felt loneliness, but I have felt isolated. Someone brought that up once. And I was like, that's a great way. Isolated, not lonely. But you're just tired of it all, and so I like those temptations come up to say, well, do what? Screw it all. We're just going to do this, this, and this, and I'm done with the pandemic. And to just kind of say, I've finished it all. And I didn't do that, but the temptations came. And it started to help me understand like the different varying reactions and why people maybe had different reactions over this last year for different reasons. I don't agree always with the reactions or the decisions sometimes, but I understand it a lot better. Like it developed in me an empathy, and it's opened my heart and my soul to be a lot more patient with people on the different variety of things. I want to go into that a bit too, but I'll just shut up because I've been monologuing for a bit.
Yeah, I think it's important because this is a thing that affects everybody, but it's going to affect everybody different ways.
Right.
Even to like what part of the country you're in. It's been kind of weird around where I'm at because even though the numbers are higher in the U.S., we still kind of keep opening things up
Mm-hmm.
and doing things.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely felt that funk the first few weeks, and I remember distinctly going to mass, seeing that camera in front of me, and just being like, "Ugh, this,"
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Like I said, we're like happy that we're able to do something for people,
Right.
but yeah, it's not the same. I'm sure many people have logged on to their parish website or to YouTube and looked at online masses and go, "This is the best we got right now," right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but I've also been kind of blessed in that I've been able, like, I've got a small circle of people that we've decided to
Mm-hmm.
see, and we don't kind of do anything else other than
Mm-hmm.
that. So that's been nice.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's interesting. This is a thing that can happen as well. A lot of times, if we can downplay funks, in the sense that like this is something that I fall into because I've had like years of major depression. I've had really difficult times. And so when I go through just a regular funk, I feel like, oh, well, I mean, it could be worse.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean it's not bad, you know? You
Right.
can downplay kind of what you're going through. And if you don't address those things, then it's still bad. So, and I guess the one thing that I have learned through my difficulties with either funks or depression or that kind of thing, um, it took me a long time to learn how to be merciful to myself in those moments
Mm-hmm.
and how to not beat myself up in those moments. It
Mm-hmm.
took a lot of practice to be like, yeah, been a bad week. Yeah, been a
Mm-hmm.
bad month. That doesn't mean I'm a horrible trash garbage person
Right.
and Jesus still loves me. And no, I
Mm-hmm.
didn't pray today, but I can pray tomorrow. I'm going to do
Mm-hmm.
that. You know,
Right.
just that kind of mindset and attitude and can make things just a lot more tolerable. Um, but yeah, depending on what part of the country you're in and what's going
Mm-hmm.
on, sometimes you feel like you've missed the emotional boat. Like some people were kind of easy with lockdowns and shutdowns; they were comfortable financially and like, eh.
Mm-hmm.
Or and then maybe now they're like, wow, I just really need to see people. And I'm very introverted. People are
Mm-hmm.
surprised by that, but I really am. but I still get a lot of life from being around my close friends.
Right.
That's still very important to me. I'm very introverted, but also, what was it? It just happened last week. Because yes, things have slowed down around after Christmas and everything. But I had a whole day where I just had a bunch of priest stuff to do. I
Hmm.
had anointings and funerals. It's not like I'm happy that people are dying or sick, but I get to
Right.
be who I am. I think it's
Yeah.
the same sort of thing when, parents have to go away on a business trip. It's not that they hate doing the business trip, or it's not like they stop being a parent, but they miss doing things with their kids. I
Hmm.
think it's the same sort of. It's similar at the very least, you know.
Yeah.
So, and I think this is the kind of one of the deeper things you're getting at. This is precisely why the Lord, one of the reasons why the Lord allows us to go through stuff, um, to kind of take away feelings of peace and this sort of thing, so that we don't dismiss other people's pain so much.
Right.
And there's a whole bunch of mystery in that because,
Right.
but one of the good things that comes out of it is that we're able to be more merciful to others. So those are my thoughts.
Yeah. And I mean, I'll be honest. I've never, and again, this is perhaps we all have our excesses, and my excess is always like, well, yeah, but God still loves me, and I'm good, and it's true, but it can excuse things too easily sometimes.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean. While
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
you go to the opposite extreme of God hates me, well, then it's so hard for God to actually let His love and forgiveness to heal you. So like they're both like in both cases, it's actually very hard to let God's mercy to actually heal you.
Yeah.
Because, oh yeah, he's just going to heal me, but he doesn't like call you to account. While on the other end, you hold yourself to such an account that you can't actually hear God call you, right? So you,
Or not even like God's
yeah,
going to heal me and you're not holding yourself to account for like things that you've done. It
yeah,
also is like you can ignore the wounds
yeah,
and you end up never bringing them to God because you're like, oh, it's going to go away. God's going to fix it.
right,
And
right,
it's our way of hiding from the fact that, hey, stuff is bad right now and stuff hurts right now.
yeah. And for me, I've always been of the mind like, and this is where I get hesitant sometimes in the sense of wounds. It's important to acknowledge them, but they might not always be healed, right? But God's grace and love still works in and through that wound, right? So, but you need to acknowledge that for that to happen, right?
I
Like,
mean, if maybe heal isn't always the best word, but transfigured, turned
yes,
into
yes.
something for his glory and for his benefits and something that does not destroy you, but God's grace shines through.
I can't remember if I've ever talked about it on here or not, but I always have a Divine Mercy Sunday homily on this. Uh, it's all around the idea that they only recognize Jesus through his wounds, which is a very powerful thing to pray over, right? But that his wounds are actually the place of his glory. The very thing of scandal is also at the same time the thing of his glory, and so it is for us as Christians who are his body. The things that we think we cannot be loved in is actually the very place that God loves us the most,
Mhm.
and that God wants us to let it shine out, right? So that's why I'm not like afraid to talk about even stuff like this. And like, I'm not going to go into everything, obviously, but it's like it's important to say, like, yeah, this is what we're going through, and it's okay to say that because God's grace works in this, and that's important to keep in mind. And that's what gives me, honestly, that's what gives me hope is to realize, yeah, no, He's still working, He's still here. He's still going to draw me closer to Him. He's not going to abandon me as long as I just need to work through this. And He's going to use this, and I'm going to offer this to Him to use for His glory, right? So that, the parishioners maybe who are feeling alone or abandoned right now, He's going to use that for them, etc. So it's definitely given me a lot more sense of empathy, which is a good thing on that regard. And it's kind of forced me to start asking a different question, because sometimes I'll get emails or phone calls or whatever from friends, family, parishioners about things that I might not always like. Their position is not something I would necessarily agree with, or might even like be diametrically opposed to. But I've been asking myself this question, and again, it kind of comes from our discussion many, many months ago around this, and I think it's an important one because it's going to. I hope it kind of just ties it all together. This experience has got me to start asking people a question to say, like, okay, this is why I agree or don't agree with you, but I want to act, and I don't think we're going to be able to have a conversation around this because I think we're too far apart. But here's what I think we can have a conversation around. Why do you care about this so much? Like, in the sense of like, what spiritual thing are you concerned about in behind all this? What's going on in your soul that makes you want to really invest a lot of time and energy into this question. And that's a good question to ask. And I've seen fruit of it. And it also tears down a lot of the normal, like you kind of go back and forth to the point where anger gets up and breaks, and then everything just falls apart, right? Instead, it tears down the defenses and enters into the heart. And I don't know if I would have been able to ask that question 6 months ago. I probably would have kept it too intellectual. And again, the intellectual side is not bad or a wrong thing. And I'm a person, like, personally, I'm heart oriented in general, actually, but for whatever reason, I was blind to this because I hadn't gone through some of those experiences. And so I'm like, oh, okay. Now it's open me to ask that question of people, and I've been finding it a helpful point of dialogue.
Yeah, and like for example, so this is purely theoretical because I have nothing to do with any of my church decorations or flowers, and we normally do a nice job. But let's say that somebody decorates the church in a certain way, and I make the decision as a priest that we're using a different flower company,
Mm-hmm.
and they freak the heck out. You have all sorts of examples of this in parish
Yeah.
life, or whatever other thing, like something you don't understand, you think is small, you think is dumb, but someone else has a very strong reaction to it. The
Yeah.
temptation is always to be like, well, this is stupid, but whatever that thing that is going on means something deep to that person, and maybe they don't even realize it.
Yeah.
I've been called out for stuff before. I remember um, uh, in minor seminary, we started recording our uh, daily masses and sending them to Catholic radio. And I freaked out about this. I hated it.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember just freaking out about it. I went to my rector and I just said, "This is terrible. We can't be doing this." Blah blah blah. And he looks at me very confused, and he's like, "Mass is a public action. Why is this bothering you so much?" And the reason was because I felt like once again I was being looked at, judged, or something. In seminary, you're very much under the microscope as far as formation. And it seemed like mass was kind of my safe place, and now that safe place was being made public.
Mm.
And I was struggling
Right.
with being a public person and what that means. So
Right.
even though my reaction, just on paper, like that makes no sense. Mass is a public thing anyway. Who cares if it goes on the radio? And like 40 old ladies listen to it in the morning. Why does that bother you? There was something deeper and more real behind that. So it's a good way to also even check ourselves that
Mm-hmm.
when all of a sudden you have a strong reaction to something, which on paper shouldn't be that big a deal, there is something real going on there, whether or not your reaction is quote unquote appropriate.
Yeah, and I think this is like a helpful tool in general. I think if someone's saying something to you that really ires you or really kind of, maybe if it's in the moment, just say, "Do what? I can't talk about this right now. I'll get back to you tomorrow about this."
Mm-hmm.
And then pray about this, but ask yourself this question, because I've just been finding it a very helpful question in so many regards, pastorally, and I think this is how we grow in maturity as priests, personally, and as human beings in general. Is how do you approach these questions differently, and how do you approach people differently in all this? And so, yeah, just approach it differently and say, like, yeah, like, oh, what's really going on here? What are you afraid of? What are you like? Are you worried that God is abandoning us? That might be a very real thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the whole gamut is possible there, but it also then opens up the heart to listening more. So that, yeah, go ahead. Yeah,
Yeah, just say so. These kind of conversations cannot happen online,
right.
or it's very, 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 very rare that's even a possibility.
Yeah,
But the thing is, because a question like that, like what's really going on, or help me understand why you feel this way, that is a question where you're inviting the other person to be vulnerable. And when you're
mm-hmm.
doing something that has in a platform that de
It's
facto
public.
has an audience,
Yeah,
it's never going to be that way.
right.
So the conversation can't be real, can't be vulnerable in that way, um, because you're always worried about the audience, and so it's just going to entrench people more in the facades of what they're saying instead of the deeper things of what they're feeling.
Right.
Someone asked me, like, they were very concerned about this person and what they were posting, and they're like, "Do you have any advice?" I said, "My one bit of advice is have this conversation in person. Do
Right.
not respond
Yeah.
via a post because that's not going to make it easier."
Exactly. Exactly. No, no, and I would agree with that. I think sometimes there are ways, but it's like, yeah, you have to go into a DM or something like that where it is more private. Um, but I say all this for a few reasons. A, so like I've recognized like, and I've texted Father Anthony about this too. Like I'm like I have felt off my game with podcasting the last 6 weeks or so, and I think sometimes on my end, my content has shown for that, and or even my engagement in discussion with the podcast and stuff. I've been putting off organizing stuff and everything, and just like it has nothing to do with the podcast. It's just been more, hey, this is what's been going on with me, and it's not fun. It's not. But it is what it is, right? So, and when that happens, it can be easier to be dismissive or not engaged or judgmental or whatever. And so, if it's come off, that way at all to people who listen, I do apologize about that because I work hard to be attentive to what I'm saying and stuff, and I do recognize also I'm someone who speaks before I think. That is definitely my personality.
At least it's never got you in trouble before. So.
Oh no, never, ever, 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 ever. But I say all this too because I want to give people some hope in all of this too. I think because listen, in all of this, I look at it and I see it as a moment of real grace because it really has been and really is. I have grown as a priest and as a person in all this in ways I never really even thought possible. Those days where it was a challenge to want to even pick up my breviary to pray it or whatever, it gave me a sense of where, okay, now when someone says, I'm really struggling with prayer, okay, I got a bit more something to work with when I'm trying to give advice and stuff like this, right? So God uses this stuff really and truly to draw us closer to him. And it's hard. I think that's the thing. It's like, it's hard for us to really embrace this. We want to run away from it. We want to react. We don't actually want to like just sit with it because it is incredibly uncomfortable to sit with it, but we can't accept that God actually can love us in this. Right? This kind of connects with what we were talking about last week, right? And I'll be honest, again, I have a natural tendency to recognize God still loves me in this. I may not like experientially recognize it, but I can at least make an intellectual assertion of that. Like, yeah, he's still here. He still loves me. He's not far away. But like that, yeah, when we're struggling to pray or we're struggling to just do anything that day or to keep up with our tasks and we're just feeling overwhelmed or tired or whatever, God is still loving us there. Actually, I would even go so far as to say he's especially loving us there.
Yeah.
Right. And that he wants to use this moment to draw us to himself. So that this is where hope is, right? Hope is not, again, wishful thinking, but it's recognizing the presence that Christ is really there with us. He really is victorious. And if he's really victorious, he's really risen from the dead. If he's really risen from the dead, we are really united to him in the church. And if we're really reunited to him in the church, then he's really with us, dwelling with us, into the mess of everything with us. And to say, yeah, go ahead.
And I think we really struggle when we screw up or when we go into funks or when we sin. We have a natural tendency to focus on the failure aspect or the time that we'll never get back or regret.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what Christ focuses on.
Mm-hmm.
And I always go back to Peter and Jesus after the resurrection. Peter is focused on the past. When Christ asks him, "Do you love me?" he is remembering how he has failed in love, and he can't respond in the same way that Christ is asking him to.
Right.
But Jesus just goes ahead and says, "Feed my sheep."
Right.
He immediately sends him on mission.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the most beautiful witnesses of the New Testament is seeing Peter in the Gospels and then reading the letters written by Peter.
Mm-hmm.
You see, if you keep in mind the person that you read in the Gospels, you can see how much the mercy of God has influenced him and changed him.
Mm-hmm.
In the same way, if Christ redeems us, then he even can redeem the time that we wasted.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not good that we wasted that time, just like it's not good that we sinned. It's not good that we murdered Jesus on the cross. That's bad.
Mm-hmm.
But Christ can actually redeem those things.
Right.
And it's kind of funny. When I'm preaching about sin or preaching about spiritual struggles or talking to somebody in spiritual direction, and I say this, that, the other thing, and they're like, "Oh, that's exactly right." It's not because I can read souls. It's because I've messed up a lot too. I get
Right.
it. You
Yeah.
know,
Exactly.
it's
Exactly.
God
Yeah.
has used that to make me a better priest. It's
Yeah.
not good that I did those things.
Right.
It's bad,
Yep.
but Christ can redeem that, and so that can be a really a point of hope. They're like, okay,
Hmm.
I definitely screwed up today, or man, it's been a bad month slash year slash bunch of years. Uh, Christ can use that to do something good.
Hmm. Amen. So yeah, I just want to say all that, and but also, yeah, Christ is really with us. He does not abandon us. He's always with us. So, um, and that the Holy Spirit intercedes for us with groans too deep for words always. So
Mm-hmm.
that even in the like, this is the thing. Even those times where you're maybe not praying as much as you'd like to or ought to, even, um, the Holy Spirit's still interceding for you. And in those, like, Christ went to the depths of hell for a reason, right? So we'll keep that in mind, because yeah, it's like, and it's like, listen, I know I've had a lot of stuff on the go, but it's like that hasn't been the issue. It's just been I don't want to do anything. It was like acedia, but worse, almost. It was just like it was not fun. It was
Super
not.
acedia.
Yeah,
Acedia was
super
like, this
acedia.
isn't even my final form. I'm only using
Exactly.
50% of my power, acedia.
Someone needs to make like a Yu-Gi-Oh whatever anime
Oh, you're
super
killing
acedia
me.
thing
Oh,
now.
you're killing me. Oh, that hurt. I hurt my little Dragon Ball Z loving heart. Ow.
Oh, Dragon
Okay.
Ball Z, whatever they are. So yeah, so we just
Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yu-Gi-Oh. I never watched any of this stuff. Those
Uh,
things were a little past me. Like I got when they
mm-hmm.
came popular, I
Yeah.
was too old for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can never go back to them and like them. You have to be a
Yeah,
kid to like
I was
Dragon Ball
I was
Z or Yu-Gi-Oh.
like
I don't think you
yeah,
can
like
be
when I was
adult
in
and
high
dive into
school,
this.
like Magic cards was the big thing, right? So that's what I played. I played a lot of Magic cards.
Yeah,
But
I did a little
yeah,
bit of that. Um, we started so super silly, went super deep, and now we're ending super silly again.
which is fine. So yeah, but and hopefully coming forward, like because this is the other thing. I'll just be honest. It's been really hard to think of podcast topics because I haven't really read a whole lot in the last month and a half. I've had a ton of books come in and stuff. I've had it like it's been hard to even read.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping going forward, Nick has given a good topic that I might do in a couple weeks that I think is a good one. And I think I might be able to kind of rejuvenate myself to come up with some more topics going forward. But it's been tough on all those things. And I know, and listen, I am not, and in saying all this, I also know that people have gone through a lot worse
Yeah.
in all this. And so I'm not trying to say, woe is me. I'm just trying to say, this is what's been going on. And it's not been fun, but Christ is here.
Cool.
Cool. Well, thanks for listening to the podcast. Please leave a review on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, wherever you listen to your podcasts. Please tell your friends about the podcast and please tell your enemies too, because Jesus says you must love your enemies. You can find me on Twitter at FR Harrison.
You can find me playing Dungeons and Dragons on the weekends.
You can contact the podcast, correctly speaking, at gmail.com. That is how many sided dice is that?
This is 100-sided die that I bought.
That's insane.
It is, and I love it. I can't wait to use it.
Does it go up that high in
For
D&D?
certain things. Not often.
Okay.
It's kind of a useless thing.
Yeah,
I
I've
didn't
seen like
realize.
the 20, 30-sided die or whatever, but I've never seen
Yeah, usually like the 20-sided die is the one you use a lot. But
yeah.
just I didn't realize that this 100-sided die is made out of metal. So if you can't see it right now and you're just listening on the podcast, you can just listen to me dropping it from like 5 inches off my desk.
How you're gonna get a workout just rolling that thing?
I know, I'm so excited to use it. It's shiny and it's gold.
Who needs the gym when you can just roll dice in D&D? Right?
Exactly.
Nerds everywhere are like, take that, gym jocks. You can find us clerically speaking at gmail.com. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter at ClericalPod. You can email us clerically speaking at gmail.com. And we will see you all next week. God bless.
Peace.
Stop and broadcast.